everyone, welcome back to White Sparrow Living, Luke 12:6. I'm Wendy, and today I am so excited. You know what day it is. It is Mystery Box Challenge Day. So for those of you that don't know how this works, every month or so, or 2 or 3, I'm not really sure how many times it is a year, but Courtney over at Creative on the Cheap does a mystery box challenge where there's about 9-ish or so creators here on YouTube. Each person will send a box to their assigned person. That person sends it to another person, and it's a big old circle of creativity and excitement and mystery. Now each time there's a different twist and challenge items and things we have to make with certain products to make it a little more challenging and a whole lot more fun. So this month the theme is Let's Go Camping. So we have a little cheat sheet of the items that we need to send to our assigned person. And so we have to include a wood item, some rope, light, which could be a flashlight, tea light, mini lights, anything like that, some plaid fabric or a bandana, greenery, and then we have 3 senders choice, which means we can send them whatever we want. That's always very scary. And then the 2 challenge items, one of them will be also a sender's choice, and then the other challenge item has to be a toy of some sort. Now each of us also got assigned a theme having to do with camping. And some of these are super cute and I think it's going to be really fun to watch. But the theme I was assigned is compass. Okay. So this month I sent my box to Emily over at FarmCharmChic, and I got my box from Lisa Kennedy at DIY Mom. And we're going to be opening that right now. This is always my favorite part. It's like an early Christmas. And it's a little bit small, so I'm kind of nervous at what all she sent. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. We'll see right now. Okay, well, so first of all, the box is super, super cutie patootie, just looking into it. And we've already got a Christmas theme going on because it is July. So maybe she's still in the Christmas in July mode. And we're gonna start with her adorable little card that she sent. And it says, "A true friend is you, friend." Oh, that's so stinking pretty. You know, I save all of my cards from every single mystery box challenge we've ever had, or that I've ever been a part of. Ah, look how cute. So, I just realized what it was. They're compasses. Oh my Lanta. Look at these. Holy Sonogies. That is so kind. Thank you, Lisa Kennedy. And a super cute little paper clip. So it says, "Miss Wendy, I hope you are enjoying your summer and staying cool. I don't miss California summers. I can't wait to see what you make. I'm always impressed. God bless, Lisa. P.S. Stickers are just a bonus for use or inspiration." Yes, and that might get me out of a lot of trouble, Lisa, so thank you for your sweetness. Okay, so we always wrap the challenge items, so we're gonna set those aside for very last. We have the sender's choice and the little toy, and thank goodness it's really little. So this is sender's choice, a little tobacco crate. This is so stinking cute. It's all mini-me. That's my size. And then for greenery, she gave me some pretty, pretty eucalyptus, or what is this? Is this eucalyptus? I think it's a type of eucalyptus. You know me and my greenery. I don't know the different types. And then of course we have some rope. And she just circled rope. Then we have light. Perfect. These are gonna be easy to use, I think. We have plaid fabric. Super pretty green. I love it. Then we have wood. And we've got all types of little laser cutouts. Oh my goodness. There's a little bike. There's a little bear. That's our California state animal. We've got an owl, a camera, another little bike, a car. Just some super stinking cute stuff in here. I don't know if I can use it all, but I'm sure gonna try. And then we have a sender's choice item, a little chalkboard, super cute. This is like a Dollar Tree tag, but supersized. And then she's got Sender's Choice, which is, how cute, a bunch of different papers and some stickers, all having to do with camping. Oh my goodness. I think you saved me, Lisa. We've got like a world map here, an old vintage kind. Oh, and it's got the compasses on back. Or maybe this is why she sent it. This is the front and this is the back. These are all two-sided. Oh my gosh, this is so cute. Did someone say campfire? She's always so good at sticking to the theme every single time. And then some really adorable little camping stickers. Super cute. I love paper. Okay, so this all seems pretty straightforward and should be easy to use, but it's those challenge items that can always get a little spicy, if you know what I mean. Probably not from Lisa though. If it was like from Whitney or Courtney, then I might be a little worried. Or Kelly. Yeah, that's pretty tough too. Okay, so this is the toy. We're gonna open that one first. And this is a potato head. Okay. I don't even know what I mean, I know what a potato, oh boy. Okay. Oh, is this gonna be my thumbnail right now? Oh dear. All right, now we're gonna do the Sender's Choice. And it is, oh, a heatless curling set. I might be able to just use those for my hair. I like it. Okay, this will be fun. And back to these, oh my goodness. Okay, well, we're gonna see what we can do with these little guys. This is gonna be a couple of weeks for me and just seconds for you. So the next video you'll be linked to will be Emily's at Farm Charm Chic. I can't wait to see what she made with the things that I sent. I think I was pretty sweet to her too. We'll see. Anyway, without further ado, let's get started. Or is it this way? No, it's this way. I need a compass. So I'm going to start by using this plaque, this chalkboard plaque that Lisa sent. And originally I had planned to use it for a different project, but then ended up pivoting and I'm going to use it for our first project. So the first thing I did was took all the stickers off, and this is where I had started using it for the other project. I put this piece of contact paper on here from Dollar Tree, and it was really pretty and everything was going to work out beautifully, but you'll see later I decided not to use it. So I changed it and used it for this project. So on the back side, I took some of that pretty paper that Lisa sent, and I'm going to use some Mod Podge and put it onto the other side of the plaque. And then I use my craft knife to take the excess off. Now this contact paper that I used on the other side is going to become problematic to this project. So I just wanted to explain why that's on there first of all, and why you're seeing it on the back side. So then I took some sandpaper and just got in through all those nooks and crannies, and it's easier if you use a piece of actual sandpaper because this is kind of curved and it just makes it easier to give it a nice finish and get rid of that excess paper. So originally for this project I was going to use a pizza pan from Dollar Tree, but in my stash I also found this pretty charger, and it's got all of those nice lines at the end. So I think it's going to work even better for what we're making. So I'm going to take my plaque and kind of put it in the middle in a diagonal position, and then I'm going to measure to see how long I need my pieces to be that I'm going to be making. We're making a compass. I thought I'd try and get the hardest one out of the way. Well, this isn't the hardest one. The last one that you see in this video is going to be the hardest one. But I have these wooden letters from Hobby Lobby that I got a long time ago for somebody's room that wanted it to be done in a nautical theme. So I was so glad that I kept these. And remember, it's not hoarding if you use it. So to make those little compass points, I made a template using some just regular copy paper, and I measured how wide I needed it to be to fit under our little plaque, and that's where we're gonna attach it with some hot glue and some permanent adhesive. So I just took half of that, I folded my paper in half and took half of that measurement and made a little line, and then I'm going to go to the length that I want it to be, and then that's going to make it into that little point that I need. So now I'm going to check to make sure that that's the length I want it to be. I need my letters to have some stability, not just on the point, but also on the charger itself. So this way I won't have to worry about them falling off, and they're going to be snug as a bug in a rug. And then I did the same thing for some smaller points that'll go in between each of those larger ones. So now to make those little points, I'm going to be using some paint stir sticks, and there's usually larger ones and then some smaller ones. So for the larger points, I'm going to be using the thicker, larger paint sticks. And then for the smaller ones, I'll use the smaller paint sticks. So I just took my template and I'm going to trace that onto the wood. And I'm making 4 large ones and 4 small ones. And then I'll take that to the scroll saw and cut those down. Now this scroll saw used to belong to my uncle. And you know, that's my 94-year-old uncle. So this is quite old, but it still got the job done. It was a little bumpity. It kind of vibrated everywhere. So Michael J ended up having to screw it down into our table so that it wouldn't move all over the place, and we just replaced the blade and got these all cut out. So once I had all of my little points cut out, I'm going to place them face down so there's no lettering showing. And then I took some painter's tape and I just went halfway across the point. So it's going to have a center line going right down the middle. And then I took my Folk Art pure gold paint. And this is pretty metallic, but on the wood, it's not quite as bright and shiny. So I'm going to paint one side, and I just taped them all down onto my painting surface so that they stayed in place and I didn't have to worry about them moving all over. And then once I got that side painted, I took the painter's tape off and made sure that the gold side was completely dry. And then I'm going to go in with some more painter's tape and mask off the painted side, and then paint it with some more gold. But first I'm going to add a little bit of Waverly Wax in Antique, and that's going to make it a little bit darker. So the idea is to make it look like it's got a shadow on the side so that it's not just a flat piece of wood. It's kind of, you know, goes up in the middle like a compass would be. So that's what we're doing here. So now to put this together, I'm going to put my 4 large points in the direction that I want them or how I want them. And then I'm going to take my plaque and mark where I'm going to add some hot glue and some permanent adhesive. And you see here, I didn't put the permanent adhesive on originally, but it's going to fall apart because of that back contact paper. So it works out actually pretty well that I didn't, because I had to redo all of this. I'm not going to show you that, but just so you know, you do want to add the permanent adhesive. And you especially don't want to put any contact paper or something slippery like this that will make it not adhere to just hot glue. So then I took my smaller points and I'm going to mark where those need to go and then add my hot glue. But you'll be adding permanent adhesive as well. And then I just put those in place right in between the larger ones. So I'm using 2 Jenga pieces, and this is what's going to lift it from my charger, and I'm putting them sideways, you know, long ways, so that they're not flat, they're going up and down so I can get as much height in there as possible. So now I'm going to take my permanent adhesive and my hot glue and I'll attach that onto my charger. Now it's time to add our letters, and so I'm just going to have them about halfway, well, maybe 3/4 of the way onto the charger, and then mark where they're going to be needing some adhesion to that paint stick. So I'll just use my pencil to mark that, and then I'll know where to add my hot glue and adhesive. So now comes my favorite part. I made a decal with my Cricut and I used Jeremiah 29:11. It says, "For I know the plans I have for you." And actually my Jeremiah 29:11 part didn't print out, and I was gonna just write it with my white paint pen, but I completely forgot to do that. But I'll also have this font on the screen for you. So now to hang this, I'm just going to use one of these metal pieces, and I used some super glue and put that on the back, and I gave it a little area so that when you hang it, it doesn't, you know, go all wonky, but then it is totally done. And here it is, all finished, and this is one of my favorite projects. I love this so much. I was so scared because I was assigned the compass because I had no idea what I was going to do. But then once I had it in my brain, it was just easy peasy right after that. I think this looks so pretty. I love it, and I hope you guys like it too. For our next project, I'm going to be using the dried eucalyptus and the Tabasco basket that Lisa sent me. And then I'm also going to be using this Dollar Tree cross ornament. And so I'm going to use some of this tissue paper that I used in, I think it was my last video, but this really pretty blue and white chinoiserie pattern. And I got this out of a birthday present. And so I've been using it and actually changed my entire living room to match it. So I'm first going to take my cross, and I wanted to find a more delicate pattern and not just a heavy, you know, big rose. You wouldn't be able to tell what it was. So I'm going to paint my cross completely white just so that the wood doesn't show through from the bottom and give it a yellow tone. And then I just placed my tissue paper right on top of that paint and then let it kind of soak into it. And then I added a little bit of Mod Podge around the corners to make sure that it stayed in place. And then I took some sandpaper and got rid of those edges and gave it a really pretty finish. And then I took some more Mod Podge and put it on the top so that it would stay in place. And I wanted it to be kind of wrinkly and give it a little bit of pretty texture. But the blue on this chinoiserie is not exactly as light as I have it in my living room. And so I want to lighten it up just a little bit. So I took some white chalk paint and I'm just going to kind of dry brush over that to lighten it up. And now it's going to match everything a little bit better. So I took a Dollar Tree little wooden cube and I'm going to hot glue that into the middle of my tobacco basket. And that's going to pop my cross up a little bit. Now at the bottom, it's going to sit right on that little ledge. And then the back will have that support from the block, so it stays perfectly in place. Now I'm going to take a few of these little pieces of the dried eucalyptus and hot glue those in over towards the side. And I also had some of these really pretty blue flowers that match my blue living room perfectly. So I'm just going to take a little bit of that and add that to that eucalyptus to give it that soft blue color that I needed. Then I took some Dollar Tree lace and I'm just going to tie that into a sweet little bow and hot glue that at the bottom of my little sprig. I cut the tails at an angle and it's done. And here it is all finished, and I love this so much. I actually have a place in my living room where I want this. It's in a shelf and I have already a nail there, but I had changed something out and didn't have anything to replace it with. So this is gonna be perfect. I'm so glad she sent this to me. I love it and I hope you guys like it too. Next, we're going to be using this curler set, and this kind of threw me at the beginning, but my first idea was to use this along the edge of a wire round wreath and then stick some flowers in it, but there wasn't enough meat to the tube, you know what I mean? There wasn't a lot to use to actually stick those flowers in. So instead, I'm going to take this Dollar Tree plastic frame and I'm going to take everything out of it, including the glass and the backing and all that. And I'm going to paint this with my pure gold metallic paint again. And anytime you're painting with gold, if you want some of that background color to show, the best color to use would be black. So this was perfect, and I knew it was going to have a nice, you know, kind of rub and buff looking finish. So I'm just going to paint my frame completely gold, but I am going to go back once it started to dry and use a dry brush to kind of take some of that paint off and let that black peek through. So then I put my curler in my frame, and I'm going to just cut long pieces to fit inside the frame itself. And you can see where there's some bends or kinks in the roller where they, you know, had to fold it and put it in the package. So I'm trying to avoid those as much as I can, but I'm going to have to piece some parts together. And anywhere where there is a kink, if I can turn it towards the back so it doesn't show, it probably wouldn't show anyway, but just to make sure, I just wanted this to be all pretty uniform and look the same all the way up. So once I got all of my tubes cut, I replaced that backing cardboard and then started hot gluing my tubes onto that. And I left a teeny bit of space in between each of those because I'm going to be putting some fabric over the top of it. And it's a little bit thicker. You can see it on my work surface there. It's this really pretty light blue crushed velvet. And this is actually the curtains in my living room now. This is an extra piece that I bought to cover my mom's piano bench so that it would coordinate with the curtains. So I'm just going to take some hot glue and attach it at the bottom, and then I'm going to start going in between those, add some hot glue, and then use a little scraper to push the fabric down in between those little cracks. And I'll do that all the way up to the very tippy top. So once I got it all the way covered to the top, I'm going to take my scissors and cut around the edges, and I'll hot glue the sides. I cut off more excess than this actually, and that way it'll fit into my frame. It's still super snug as a bug in a rug, but because I used super thick fabric, when I replaced the backing with the kickstand, it kind of popped up from the back, so I'll just use some hot glue to hold that down and keep it in place. And then since my frame is pretty plain at the top, I wanted to add a little bit of bling, so I'm using a really pretty brooch, and I just tucked that into the top with a little pokey part, and now I have this super pretty ring holder for my bedroom. And I love how this turned out. I don't have a lot of rings, but I'm just showing you some. I even have my class ring in there. But you get the point. It's so pretty. I love this, and I hope you like it too. So now I'm going to be using the battery operated candles that Lisa sent, and I'm using some more of my chinoiserie, I just like saying that word, chinoiserie tissue paper, and I'm just going to use some Mod Podge and paint it onto the bottom part of my candlestick. And I'm going over the part where you screw it off to turn it on and off, or, you know, replace the batteries. So we're going to address that in just a second. I have already put my batteries inside. You can see it kind of flickering every time I turn it or move it. So I'm just going to go all the way around and finish it up and get that completely covered. And I ripped the top part of that tissue paper so that it has a nice uneven edge at the top, and it kind of looks like I cut around the flowers and stuff. So it's so pretty. And then once I get it all attached, I'm going to take my craft knife and cut around that opening where it screws apart. There's a little gap there, so just go through that, and then you can turn it off and on and also replace the batteries. So now I'm taking the stands. I thought I was going to need 3, but I only ended up needing the 2 that came in the package. And I'm just going to glue those together to make a little stand for one of my candles so that they're uneven and staggered inside of my little vase that I'm going to show you in just a second. So then I took some Dollar Tree baker's twine in this really pretty blue, and it happens to match perfectly. So I'm just going to tie that around. This is just to kind of cover up the plastic part, because remember, plastics are like undergarments, necessary but should never be seen. That's my aunt saying. You've probably heard me say it before, but I'm just going to wrap that around. It kind of looks like a bit of a spool of thread, but it gets kind of covered up. I just wanted to make sure you couldn't see any of that in case it peeked through. So then I'm going to lighten this up again with my white paint, and I just added a little bit of water this time and sponged it off on there. And you can see the difference between how dark it is compared to the lighter version. The original color is still pretty light, and it's really, really pretty, but I just needed it a little bit lighter. So then I'm going to take some more of that baking twine and wrap it around a few times in the middle of my candle, and then cut off the excess. And then I took a little teeny, I don't even know what this is. This is a Dollar Tree greenery stem, but I just took the little white piece. I have no idea what you would even call that, but just a little piece there. And I cut off the back so it would be flat and lay a little more flatly against my candle holder, and it'll stick with the hot glue. And then I added a teeny weeny little flower to that at the bottom. And then I took some more of that dried eucalyptus and just pulled off one little leaf. And that's just gonna go in the top corner there and give it some embellishment to make these candles super pretty. So now I'm going to take this Dollar Tree vase and take that little candle stand that I made, and I'm going to use some permanent adhesive and some hot glue. And you guys know not to mix this together because something happens when you do that. It's some kind of chemical reaction and it doesn't stay very well. So I'm going to put that stand in there, and then I'm going to glue and attach one of those candles to the top of that, and then I'll just put the other one right on the bottom of the vase. So now they're pretty and staggered. So I got these really pretty flowers from Hobby Lobby. They're $12.99, but of course, never, never, never pay full price. So I got these either 40 or 50% off, but I'm just going to take a little bundle of that and put it at the bottom to kind of cover the bases of these and to give it some more of that pretty color. And I love how this turned out. It was so easy, but I think it makes such a pretty statement, and it's going to go perfectly in my living room. I love this, and I hope you guys like it too. So after all that pretty blue, I'm going to be using this green gingham fabric that Lisa sent. I'm also going to be using some fusible web and these two Dollar Tree pot holders. So we're going to be doing a little Christmas in July, since technically it is still July for a few more hours anyway. So I folded my fabric over 2 inches, and so when I unfold it, it'll be 4 inches in total. And then I'm going to go right down the middle at 2 inches, and then I'm going to fold those strips over, and that'll be a 1-inch strip with the pretty side facing both sides. So then I took a needle and thread, and I'm just going to go in and out of my little strip at the open end so that it's closed for one thing, but also when I pull my thread through, it's going to gather that and give us a really pretty topper for the top part of our pot holder. So I'm going to fold over the end to give it a clean edge, and then I'm going to start pinning it down, and it's just under that little seam or the little edging where you put your hand into the pot holder. And then once I get it all pinned down, and I want to make sure that my pleats are even and go across the whole thing perfectly, and I also folded down the other end too. And then I'll baste that at the top and keep it all in place with some pretty wide stitches, just a basting stitch to hold it in place. And then I'm going to take my little mini iron and iron that all down so that it's nice and flat. And then I took another piece of Dollar Tree lace, and I'm going to give those some clean edges as well and attach that right over where we basted so you don't see any of that. And I'll use hot glue to keep that down. So I'll also be using some of this white Dollar Tree fabric, and I'm going to make a little template. I folded a piece of paper again in half, and I'm going to make another template. I'm doing a little Christmas tree. It wasn't quite long enough, so I'm going to make it a little bit longer and then cut that out. I'll do 3 different styles of trees. So I have one with the little pointy limbs, one with some curved limbs, and then just a tall, straight, triangular tree that's a little bit taller than the other 2. And then I'm going to use some fusible web and attach that to my fabric. Now what I showed you at the beginning was actually interfacing from the Dollar Tree, because apparently I can't read labels very well. But all you do is you take the fusible web, and there's a bumpy side and then a smooth side. I took the bumpy side and I'm going to put that on the back side of my fabric, and then I'll iron that down, and then it adheres to the fabric. And then I'm going to take my templates and put it on the paper side of my fabric, draw those out, and then cut them out. And then all I have to do is pull off that backing sheet and place it onto my pot holders, and then I'll iron those in place. Now there's a teeny tiny little lip, you know, where that bias tape is, or, you know, the edging of the pot holder, and it has a piece that kind of comes up. So I just tucked my fabric inside of that and then ironed it down. So it looks really finished and clean. Now on the sides, it's a little bit curved, so I did have to cut a little bit off of the sides of the two side trees so that they would go around that little curve, and it looked like that was how the pot holder was made. Now when I was ironing this down, I guess I had gotten some adhesive on the bottom of my iron, so it got onto a portion of my pot holder, and I'll show you that. See it right there over to the right? And I noticed it was on there, and I was really bummed because I couldn't get it off. But that's what you call a happy accident. And the way I fixed that was by adding some little white buttons that I had. And so I thought it was so cute, and I should have done this even if I didn't have that little adhesive accident. So I hot glued those in place throughout the top part of the pot holder, and then used some red thread to actually tack those down and keep them in place. And I love how these turned out. I was so pleasantly surprised because I was kind of out of the Christmas mood, the Christmas in July mood, but I love anything gingham, and I thought paired with the white fabric, it was just so pretty. And my daughter saw these and already called it for Christmas, so they were a hit. I love these, and I hope you guys like them too. So now for this project, I'm going to be using some of these wooden pieces that Lisa sent, and the pretty scrapbook paper, and then possibly a compass. I'll use some of these stickers, and I'm trying to use as much as I can all in one project. I'm going to find the pieces of paper that I want to use and make sure everything's coordinated and matches. So I'm going to take my little wooden pieces, and I'm using my Waverly wax in antique and just staining those to make them a little bit darker. And then I'm taking my stickers, and I want to find the ones that have, you know, coordinated colors with the paper. So I'm going to change them from stickers because I don't want them to be sticky on the back side. So I just took some baby powder and rubbed that on the stickiness, and then it gets rid of it, and now it's just basically a die cut. So now I'm going to take a scrapbook sleeve, and I'm going to leave the paper in it so you can see what I'm doing, but I'm going to cut this down, and I made it about 3 inches by 8 inches, and this is going to become a little bookmark. Then I took some of that sweet camper paper, and I'm going to cut that down to 4 inches by just under 3 inches. And then I made a diagonal cut from the top to the side, and that's going to go in the bottom part of our little sleeve. So then I took a little piece of that scrapbook paper that says "Let's Go Camping," and I'm going to glue that right onto the side of my little pocket here. And then I took my heat tool and a metal ruler, and I'm just going to fuse that closed on 2 sides so that it gives me basically a little baggie. This is going to become a shaker bookmark. So we're just closing up the sides so that none of our shakiness comes out. And when you pull the heat tool down the line on the sides, you just want to make sure that you continuously drag your heat tool across there so that it doesn't burn or make a hole. And I did make this double-sided too. I put a couple of stickers on the back side of the double-sided paper. So now I'm going to take a couple of items and start poking it in there. I had originally put in the big bike. I thought it was so cute, but it was a little bit too big and it was taking up more room than I wanted it to. So I pulled that one back out. But then I added my stickers, and then I'm going to add some confetti and some bling and a little bit of glitter. And I'm just going to pop all of that into the top part of my bookmark. And I also did fuse, you probably saw that, I fused along the top diagonal edge where that paper is. It didn't completely fuse together, so there's a little bit of confetti that dropped down into the bottom portion, but I think that makes it look even prettier. And then I took 2 of my compass stickers, and I wanted that to be double-sided, so I went ahead and stuck those together so that on both sides you can see that there's a compass in there. And then once I got about how much I thought would be good for my little shaker so that there was still enough room to actually shake and move around, I'm going to seal up the top, and I first cut the 2 corners at the top so that it looks like a tag, and then I'll fuse all of those edges closed as well. So now I'm going to take my Crop-A-Dile and make a hole at the very top, and then to give it some reinforcement, I'm going to use an eyelet, and I've had these forever, but I took a sweet little yellow flower and I'm going to poke that into the hole, and then using the top portion of my Crop-A-Dile, I'm going to squeeze down on that eyelet, and that's going to close it up or open it up, however you look at it, and keep that in place. So now I want to make a tassel, and I'm just going to take some of this chenille yarn from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to wrap it around. This is just a little pegboard thingy from the Dollar Tree, so I thought it was about the right length. I want this to be kind of a bulky tassel to put at the end of the bookmark. So I'm going to wrap that around 50 times, and then I'm going to put a piece around the top and make sure that the knot is hidden underneath all of those layers. And then I'll pull it all together and do some wraps around the top part to make it look like a tassel. And then I took my plastic needle and I'm going to feed that end piece into the back side of my roundy pieces so that it doesn't show, and I'll just pull that down and it just becomes hidden and part of the tassel. And then I took my scissors and I'm going to even that all up at the bottom and attach it to my eyelet and pushing my tassel into that loop, and now it's all connected. And here it is all finished, and I think this turned out so adorable. I am thinking I'm going to have to make some other ones for the grandkids, maybe for myself, but get them with super pretty patterns and themes. And I couldn't find any camping like set stuff, so this is a book on Australian Christmases. And there happened to be this little tent in here, but hey, we work with what we can. But I love this, and I hope you guys like it too. So now it's finally time to tackle my Mr. Potato Heads. Oh my goodness. I'm going to use some rope and then a couple of boxes that I had. And the first thing I did was tape them all down nice and tightly so that they don't come apart. And this was the project that I had originally planned to use, that Jeremiah 29:11 plaque, but I pivoted, and you'll see why in a second. So once my boxes are all taped up, I'm going to use my utility knife, and I measured down about 2.5 inches, and I'm going to cut that open on 3 sides, and in the back I'm going to just score it so that I can bend it there. And then this way these will open up and kind of be like chests, you know, so the top opens up. So now once I have both of them where I can open the tops of the lids, I'm going to take some more of that blue crushed velvet fabric, and I'm going to cut it down first so that it's in a manageable piece, and then I'm going to start gluing it to cover my larger box. And all I did on this is kind of like wrapping a present, but just glue it where you need to, cut it where you need to so that it's not so bulky, and then just lots of glue. I didn't even glue down, you know, the flat surface parts. I just went from one lip all the way around to the other lip, and then was very generous with my hot glue to make sure that it stayed in place. And I didn't want to pull it too tightly when I was wrapping it around to the other side, because I want it to, you know, still open and close. And if you pull it too tight, it's not going to close all the way. And on all of the edges and corners, I just made sure to fold those sides in so that it had a nice finished edge. This was pretty time consuming, but I remember wrapping a lot of boxes in fabrics back in the day. I would wrap little craft boxes to decorate my daughters' rooms, and use these all the time, and they're functional, and you can put things inside of them, and you can coordinate the fabrics with whatever the decor is and use it as a pretty accessory. So now for my other box, the smaller one, I'm going to use some Mod Podge, and I covered it first with some white tissue paper because the box is brown, and I had a feeling that that was going to show through once I put Mod Podge on my tissue paper, the decorative chinoiserie tissue paper. So I just used some Mod Podge on here, and I was really wanting some texture like I usually do. I just think the crumpled up look with all the wrinkles and bumpity bumps just gives it so much more character. So I went ahead and I'm just gonna get that white tissue paper on there, and I did 2 sheets to make sure it would be a brighter white, and then I'm gonna go in with the blue and white and make my decorative box. Again, I'm gonna go right over the seams where the opening is, and I did want to make my placement a little intentional. So the top, which is gonna show the most, I wanted a nice pretty design or pattern right on top. And then with the fronts, you know, I wanted it a certain way. So I just moved it around until I got the placement that I wanted. And then to seal it all in, again, I'm going to use my Mod Podge so that all that tissue paper stays in place. And then once it was dry, I'm going to go in again with my craft knife and cut open that tissue paper so that it's still functional. And then to lighten it up again, I'm going to use my white chalk paint and some water to give it that super soft silvery blue that I love so much. So now for the handles, I'm going to make holes on the sides of my box and then feed my rope into the front, and I'm just going to make a knot on the inside so that it stays in place, and I'll do the same thing on the other side. So this was the project that I was going to use the Jeremiah 2911 plaque, but when I was done with it, it was so pretty and the plaque covered too much of the box. And Jeremiah 2911 is usually associated with traveling, and that's why I wanted to use it with this. But Jeremiah wanted to be in here somewhere, so that's how he ended up on our first compass project. So now to make these look like steam trunks, and for my sweet younger audience, those are the trunks that used to be carried, you know, if you've seen the movie Titanic, they would carry trunks to use in their travels. You could get a lot more in these. I'm just going to use some Dollar Tree lace and hot glue that around. I did 2 rows of a thicker lace, and those are going to go horizontally, and then I'll do some of the thinner lace going around the top, and those would be like the buckles that would hold the trunks closed. But I didn't have a whole lot of this lace left, so I really had to conserve on the amount that I used, so I didn't go all the way around the bottom part, and anywhere that I, you know, could save a little bit, I did. So I'm just going to use my hot glue and make sure everything stays in place. And then for the top part on the lid, I want to make sure that that's lined up with the bottom portion, you know, the ones going vertically. So I just made sure that it was kind of closed, and that, you know, when it was closed, it would match up and look like one solid piece. And then once I got them glued in, I went back and tacked them down once I was sure that they were even and level. And then I'm going to do the same idea on my smaller box. I used some grosgrain ribbon for the top and the horizontal lines anyway. And then I kind of cut it a little wonky, so I tried to hide that with that grosgrain ribbon and let it kind of overflow, and then just glued that all the way around. And then for my vertical pieces, I used some more of the thicker lace to use as the straps. And then for my handles on the smaller box, I'm just going to use some of that skinny lace, and I folded the ends over so that it had a clean edge, and then I just glued it so that there was a little poof there, and those are going to serve as the handles because the rope was a little too big for this smaller box. So now it's time to use our little Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head. It's actually something else. And I'm trying to show you here the name on the back. It says Wendy's. So these were made specifically for me. I wanted to play with them, but I thought it was time to get to business and get this over with. So what I'm going to do is pull these little guys apart. I think they were named like Spacebot and Robo something. I forget now. I wish I would have kept the packaging. So I'm going to use some spackle, and I'm using the one piece that is the back of Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head, and I'm just going to fill that up. There's a little bit of a hollow spot along the back side, and so using my Cricut spatula, I'm just going to push that all in there and get it nice and textury, and eventually once that dries, it's going to dry, you know, pretty hard. Not like super hard, but it's, you know, solid. And that's what I needed. And then I'm going to go in with my metallic paint again and paint that gold. Now here's where you can see it's pretty bright here, and I didn't want it to look new. So once I get these completely painted, and I want to make sure that I get it on the sides, and I didn't sand these, and this is plastic, but I'm going to, at the end, go over it with some Mod Podge so that it won't chip or, you know, scrape off or anything. But once I got the gold on there, I'm going to go back in with some Waverly wax in antique and give it an aged look. Now, once I got that on, it was a little bit too dark, but I'll fix that in just a second. But look at the difference of how aged and pretty this looks. So I don't know if you guys can tell yet, but these are going to be the locks of our steam trunks. And I think this is so pretty. I can't wait for you to see it at the end. But then I also took a little piece of Dollar Tree heart lace, and I cut out the little hearts and got rid of all the knobbies on the outside parts. And then I glued those down onto my locks and then used my paint pen to make the little, you know, downward piece. So it looks like the opening where you would slide your key in, you know, the keyhole. That's what it's called. And then here's where I'm going to lighten it up a little bit by just doing some white dry brushing on there. And then finally, to keep everything locked in and in place, I'm going to use a generous amount of Mod Podge to seal it all up. And then I'm going to take my hot glue and attach this to the front of my box. And I did that for both of them. Now on my smaller box, I accidentally glued it shut because I put some hot glue on the bottom portion of my the lock. So I was really bummed about that because I wanted to style it with that kind of open and have some greenery inside. I tried to get it open or, you know, pull it back apart, but I was afraid I was going to rip my tissue paper. And it's still super, super cutie patootie, but here it is all finished. And I am so, so, so in love with this. I am going to put that, well, I already did. It is in my living room, front and center. I think it's so pretty. And it would not have happened if I didn't get these silly little toys that Lisa sent me. And this was all I could think of to do. I was even thinking, can we melt this and mold it into something? I didn't know what to do with them, but I think this turned out better than I expected. I love this, and I hope you guys like it too. I hope you guys enjoyed all of these projects, and if you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, comment, let me know what you think. Hype it if you like it, share it, do all the things. If you're not already, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button down below as well as the little bell right next to it so that you can be notified every time I upload a brand new video. Don't forget to check out Emily's video next and everyone in the playlist. Remember the reason for every season. I hope everyone has a blessed day and remember to always be the light. Bye!